All right. We're live. We're live. We're live.
Excuse me. Yeah, there we go. There we go. We got it.
I need to look
Rigel.
up. Piece of terror. I
Hey,
need to look
guys.
up one thing real quick.
Today we're talking about sweeteners. Sweeteners. Robert's looking up something real quick. I'm gonna go chase our kid.
Yes.
There we go.
All right. So we are talking about sweeteners. Let's dive into it. Before we dive into it, though, I should take a deep breath. Today has been a day, y'all. Today has been a doozy of a day, but we are here now and all is well. So, talking about sweeteners, we have several sweeteners to talk about because sweeteners are a thing of much interest, especially in the keto diet. Obviously, if you're doing keto, you're probably not consuming a lot of sugars, carbohydrates, which convert to sugars in the body. There are multiple different types of sugars. You got glucose, you got fructose, you got lactose, which is the dairy-based sugar. And honestly, like, I don't know how deep we want to go into this, but a lot of people assume that, if you're eating a simple sugar, like a table sugar, pure glucose, then you're going to have a much harder time than if you were consuming something like a starchy carbohydrate or a potato or something of that nature. And that is true to an extent because there's going to be obviously a lot more fiber in the potato, which is going to shunt the absorption of some of that sugar. However, from a ketogenic standpoint, carbohydrates are going to be processed by the body in a similar fashion. So there's not really much distinguishing factors from a metabolic standpoint between these simpler sugars or less simple sugars. So I just recommend avoiding them entirely. And fructose, the fruit-based sugars, things like what you're gonna get from a plum or an apple, or to like honey, even. Honey is predominantly fructose. That's pretty much gonna be processed by the liver, so that can be overdone quite easily. So I do not recommend a ton of fructose either. But when it comes to sweeteners, when you take out the carbohydrates, you take out the fructose, glucose, lactose, and you still have a craving for sweetness, you start to incorporate other sweeteners that are not sugar. You have non-nutritive sweeteners like the sucralose, which is what Splenda is made with, or the maltodextrin, or ACE-K, acesulfame potassium. A lot of the popular sweeteners in the keto space are the monk fruits, the stevias, allulose, xylitol. What are some other sweeteners that come to mind? What does he get into? His own stuff?
She's back. Um, just all sweeteners.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 279
Yeah,
different names for sugars.
Ridiculous.
So it's kind of insane. But from a ketogenic low carb standpoint, the popular ones are the erythritol, allulose, xylitol, Splenda, or not Splenda, but stevia, and monk fruit. And some of these are going to be higher on the glycemic index scale than others, which means it's going to have more of an effect on blood sugar levels than others. Something like, for me, that's going to be individualized too, but I don't typically see any blood glucose response from stevia and monk fruit. So I typically cater to those or gravitate towards those when it comes to sweeteners. Some people have a gastric threshold to certain non-nutritive sweeteners like Splenda, stevia, not necessarily stevia, but Splenda for sure, acesulfame potassium, allulose, erythritol. And if you know what I'm talking about, when a gastric threshold standpoint, you have too much of it and it's just going to cause some diarrhea. And a lot of that is because it's going to cause fluid retention interstitially, intestinally. You're going to have more fluid that's drawn to your digestive tract, and that's why you're going to have diarrhea. So don't recommend a lot of sweeteners that are going to cause that. Again, I don't typically notice that with stevia or monk fruit, but I do with excessive xylitol, or not xylitol, but erythritol consumption. Now, allulose is interesting because allulose is technically a sugar, and it is disclosed as an added sugar on nutritional statements, but it's kind of in the limelight right now within the keto low carb space, future proof PHX just said allulose is super interesting metabolically. And I kind of want to talk about that. That was a big point of discussion at the Metabolic Health Summit this past 2 weeks ago now, I guess, because it's been shown to actually have a favorable effect, metabolically speaking. And there is something called a where'd it go here? GLP-1. So GLP-1, that's basically what is being targeted from the semaglutide drugs and the Wegovy drugs and the Ozempic drugs. Because what's happening there is it basically increases satiety levels. Those are drugs that everybody's taking right now to lose weight because it increases satiety. You don't eat as much. However, studies have been shown with those drugs that a lot of the weight that is lost is lean tissue. And some studies have shown that when you are on those drugs, you'll see a shrinkage of the fat cell, but you actually accumulate more fat cells. I don't know how definitive that research is yet, but what happens is people get off those drugs and they're getting off those drugs with an increased number of fat cells and less lean tissue. So they wind up worse off than they were before they got on the drug. So I don't really ever recommend those from a sheer weight loss standpoint for the masses. But allulose, kind of getting back to allulose, has shown to have a similar effect, obviously on a much lower scale as those drugs, at also inhibiting the I keep forgetting the acronym here, the GLP-1. So there is some interest there. People use allulose as a way to kind of hedge against that. Now, in my opinion, the very small GLP-1 inhibition that would come from allulose would be offset by that increase in sweet sensation in the first place. So you may have, from a sheer, metabolic and, petri dish research standpoint, you may have an increase in satiety with something like allulose from a GLP-1 inhibitor standpoint. But from a physiological standpoint and kind of how we function as a species, you're going to have an increase in sweetness from the allulose and likely wind up eating more food at the end of the day anyways. So I don't really recommend looking at it through that lens. Honestly, when it comes to sweeteners, I would play it safe and just minimize them because you're not really going to have much nutrition in things that are really high in sweeteners, generally speaking anyways, certainly compared to like quality, just wholesome single ingredient foods. So I would minimize the sweeteners, but if you are going to include them, then something that you don't respond poorly to digestively speaking, like a stevia or monk fruit would be good. And some people are totally fine with the erythritols and the alluloses, in which case, by all means, go for it. But test it. Figure out what your unique threshold is from a gastric standpoint, from a digestive standpoint. See what it does to your blood sugar levels. Some are going to have more of a response than others. Some people are going to have what's called a cephalic phase of insulin response, in which sweet foods can cause a temporary increase in blood sugar, even from non-nutritive sweeteners. Probably not a massive amount, but for some people, it could be a substantial amount. So check and see how your body responds. So that's kind of my little high-level stance on sweeteners. You don't do too well with anything but stevia and monk fruit either, right?
Yeah, I have like it's like a monk fruit, but it's like bound to erythritol, and I can eat it, but if I eat too much of it, it definitely messes with my stomach. And sometimes I'm like, it's worth it, like during like Christmas time or something, but I really don't eat it otherwise. Like I would rather eat things that feel good to my stomach. And then like lately I've had like a drink mix that has sucralose in it. And that's never really irritated my stomach, but lately it's been really causing me to be bloated. So I've kind of just taken it out of my diet, which is just weird.
Yeah, and the thing about these artificial sweeteners like acesulfame potassium and sucralose, they get a bad rap in the keto low carb space from a gut microbiome standpoint. And yeah, in a petri dish, they can cause issues with the gut microbiome. But I don't think most people are consuming so much of that it would cause a truly catastrophic effect on the gut microbiome. So if you're taking in a little bit of sucralose on occasion, I don't think it's the end of the world. But given the option, I would personally opt for a more natural source like stevia or monk fruit.
Replace sweeteners with steaks. You
Yeah.
see, Robert can totally do that. Like Robert could like eat steaks until he got blue in the face.
I could.
I am not that way. Like especially with meat. Oh my goodness, kid. Especially with meat, I can only handle so much before I'm just like, I would rather not eat. And I enjoy that food tastes good. I enjoy the sweet treats in life. I enjoy having my little piece of chocolate at the end of the evening or whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be super sweet. Like I will eat 100% dark chocolate, but it tastes sweet to me. Or I can have like a couple of strawberries with heavy cream on top. Like I don't have to have a bunch of extra sweetener to it. But I am one of those people that does enjoy that food tastes good. And I can make it taste good.
I don't do a lot of sweetness.
I like the month of December. I enjoy making treats. Like that's like a thing that I enjoy like making. I enjoy enjoying them, and I'm okay with that. Some people really need to like completely cut it out of their life, and that's okay too. But I'm not a person. Like I will make cookies as Rigel gets older because like I just like them.
Find what's sustainable for you. Like obviously try and prioritize real, wholesome, single ingredient foods that are not sweet.
Especially if you have a goal in mind. Like if you're pretty happy and content where you are, then have a little bit of fun here and there. But if you have a goal, if I had a goal in mind, I would be like, oh, I should probably not have that,
And if you have an unhealthy relationship with food, like certain sweet foods may be trigger foods for you. And they may be trigger foods whether they're keto friendly or not. And you can overconsume keto friendly foods just as easily as you can overconsume carbohydrate based foods. So if you have these trigger foods, which for a lot of people are these really sweet, hyper palatable foods, then know that, have enough self-awareness to not bring those into the house and have them consistently available to you at all times. So yeah, have enough self-awareness on that one.
Can we get some of your questions over there?
Yes. TM says, when not in a cut, do you recommend OMAD?
I do not.
So when I'm not in a cut, I'm in the building phase. And for me to be in the building phase, I need to be consuming north of about 3,500 calories. That's probably not best done in an OMAD protocol. So I would typically break it up to at least 2 meals a day. What about Coke Zero? I haven't had a Coke Zero. I don't think I've ever had a Coke Zero. But I'm pretty sure they're sweetened with acesulfame potassium. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I don't know. I don't honestly know what they're sweetened with.
I'm pretty sure the sweeteners are not the most optimal, but I mean, if it steers you away from drinking Coke, then it's probably better. However, there are things like Zevias that they have a Coke Zevia, and I find that it tastes delicious. I don't drink them super frequently anymore. I get them when like someone comes to town, but I think that they taste good, and I think that the sweeteners are oftentimes received better by your body.
Everyone is matched grays and mustard yellow. Adorable family. That was not planned.
I think I do that with me and Rigel, and it's totally not on purpose, but I think like my brain, like when I'm getting me or him ready, like I just get one of us ready and then I go and get the other person ready. And I think I have that color already in my mind or something, because sometimes I do that with me and Rigel. So funny.
Will the peppermint bricks come back? They may come back, but if we do bring them back, it'll be, that's a seasonal holiday flavor. So if you missed out during the holidays, then you have to wait till the next round of holidays.
What are your thoughts on collagen supplements and creatine? Also, what would you say are your top must-have supplements? That's a really great question. I take more of the collagen. What is that?
That's not good.
Okay, you gonna get it? I take more of the collagen. I couldn't tell you from today to tomorrow or in 1 month span if I notice a benefit, but I feel like it's a long-term thing. And I think the most important thing about collagen is the quality. So I either get mine from Allie Miller or Equip also has a really good one as well. Is there another brand that you would recommend?
Bubs.
Do you know the quality of it though?
It's good.
Or Bubs Naturals.
Collagen is an incomplete amino acid profile, so
Yes.
I wouldn't use that as your primary source of protein.
I don't know if you can hear him, but collagen is an incomplete protein. So we wouldn't suggest you take it as like a protein option, but like as a supplement for sure. I take it every single day. I took it every single day when I was pregnant with Rigel. I swear it helped my skin. Like I literally had like maybe one stretch mark the whole time, and you can't even see it now. And I got to 42 weeks, people. I got pretty big old belly there. So I swear that helped, along with hydration and things like that. And then as far as like for joints and hair and nails and all that kind of stuff, I think it's like a long-term, like more accumulative over time type of thing. Creatine, Robert does take creatine. When I'm very consistent in the gym, I take creatine. I should take it no matter what, but I really get out of the habit of taking it. No, I did that on purpose so he couldn't get over there. That was so loud.
That was loud.
You want to talk on creatine?
Creatine's great. Creatine's great. Everybody should take creatine probably. I mean, there's so many studies done on creatine. It's more research than any other supplement out there. It's naturally occurring in the meat that you consume, just not in high enough quantities to really take advantage of the supraphysiological levels of creatine that would be ideal from a performance standpoint. It's good for the brain. It's good for the muscle tissue. It helps convert ADP back into ATP, which is great for energy. But I do not recommend, like certain creatine brands have a bunch of additives in there. You don't need all that fancy stuff. Just get a simple, cheap creatine monohydrate and then stay consistent with it. You don't have to worry about the timing of the creatine as long as you are consistently taking it so that your body stays saturated with it.
What was the one that I was taking when I was doing my powerlifting stuff?
I don't know, but I get the Momentous brand, Live Momentous. It is one of the better ones for absorbing and just dissolving in water. Like some of them are like super clumpy.
I swear too that I could tell a difference with that one. Like, and I normally like can't tell a difference with creatine. This is an interesting fact. If you are allergic to ragweed, avoid stevia. It is in the same plant family.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I will settle for seasonal. They were delicious. My favorite. They are really good. I do like the mint chocolate or the white chocolate peppermint. Edward, you'd mentioned using nicotine pouches. Do you currently still use the pouches? If not, how difficult was kicking the habit? I do still have them, but I am titrating them down quite a bit. I started doing them when my calories got low because they have a mild appetite suppression. So it just made the lower calories more sustainable. They also are kind of used as a nootropic, but I've weaned them down considerably, and I'll phase them out completely once my calories are high enough. But it has not been hard for me. So I was doing the 6 milligram pouches. So I started at 3s, then I went to 6s when my calories were the lowest, and now I'm going backwards basically and doing 3s again, and then I'll just phase them out. I could honestly probably cut them out completely and wouldn't have any issues. But there's not really any adverse effects to having them in because I don't really have an addictive tendency towards things like nicotine. So I'm not really too worried about it for me personally. Do you wear a CGM? I do. I actually need to put a CGM in right now. I got some new G7 Dexcom CGMs, and I don't always wear them, but when I'm doing some experimentation or just playing around with things, I'll put one in to see what my numbers are looking like. So we have to do that tonight, babe. Can you put that CGM in for me? She said, sure. But I am excited about that. I'm using the Levels company to get my Dexcom CGM. So they've got a pretty slick interface, and I've liked that so far.
Does Rigel use play with Keto Bricks instead of Legos? He literally did. Like, he has had these, and he's just been like stacking and playing with them.
He does love Keto Bricks. He eats probably a full Keto Brick a day. No joke.
He says,
Yeah.
Like that's what he says when he wants one. I'm moving back to keto due to my migraines because of possible glaucoma. Uncontrolled migraines for over a week now, and now I might have glaucoma in one eye.
So I actually just got off a client call like right before this live for somebody that he's had all kinds of eye issues since he was a kid, and he started doing keto and low carb for the anti-inflammatory properties with regards to his eye health. And he said that's been the single best thing he's done. I mean, he was having to have multiple surgeries on his eyes, multiple medications, and he's pretty much not had to do any of that since transitioning to keto. So yeah, I think from a eye anti-inflammatory standpoint, you're not going wrong by switching back to keto.
Ace K and sucralose is what is in Coke Zero.
That's what most of the mainstream companies use. That's just what they use.
My current weakness is Quest chili lime chips. I can't keep them in the house.
We used to get a lot of Quest products. We used to do Quest
bars, but I don't think I've ever had the chips.
We used to do chips too.
I don't remember that.
They are delicious, but I haven't had one of those in a long time. I don't even remember what they're made from.
You know what I am addicted to right now? What are those pork rinds? Pork and good. Holy mackerel. Those are so stinking good. They're so good. There's decent evidence that collagen and skin, nails, and hair, but not really for joint health, unfortunately.
While I've got you on here, man, are you still doing that PopTart diet? I saw something on your Instagram. Yeah, he's gone back and forth with keto. Sometimes he's doing it, sometimes he's not. But I saw him doing like a PopTart thing. That may just been because it was like International PopTart Day or something like that. I'm not sure. But I saw something on your IG about that. So how'd that go?
I was going to say for the joints. I think that maybe it's not the best thing, but I don't think you're doing any harm by taking collagen for your joints. And it does have certain amino acids in it that can be beneficial for it. So as much as like people say like for joints or maybe take it because your knees hurt or whatever, I think I just would do it for the added benefits, like my skin, like when I was pregnant. I think it really, really helped. But I think it's probably adding some benefits, especially for someone who isn't taking it or maybe doesn't have a perfect diet.
How accurate do you think a smartwatch like an Apple Watch is to figure out your total daily energy expenditure? What smartwatch do you have on or recommend? So I've got the Garmin on, and I'll use it for tracking my steps. My Oura Ring also tracks my steps. I would never base my caloric intake off of what my activity tracking apps and wearables tell me. I just would never do that. Like they're going to be rough estimations at best, and I would just never recommend basing your intake off of what your estimated caloric expenditure via those wearables is. That said, I do like kind of having a pulse on what my activity is, step count, things of that nature. But I would never adjust my intake based off of that solely.
Yeah. And I think I have so many clients that come to me that are basing it off of that, and they have such a hard time going outside of what that says. Like I will tell them to do one thing and they're like, but I only got so many steps in, or I only burned so many calories today. How is that going to make sense? And I'm like, get rid of the thing, like it can be really good, but if you're basing your whole life off a watch or a ring or something like that, probably not your best bet. I think it's really good for collecting the things that you are doing, your rest and things like that. But I think it can be very addictive for some people. Yeah. Do you have anything upcoming in Canada, and would either of you try a Spartan event after experiencing a marathon? Would love to run one with both.
I would totally do a Spartan.
Oh, I'm one of the few on a keto diet running endurance events. Yeah. I think we both would like to do a Spartan at some point. We also don't have anything coming up in Canada. I have never been to Canada, which is kind of crazy because we lived in Washington and I was so close to Canada and I never made it over that border.
Yeah, never been to Canada, but I would totally go to Canada and I would totally do a Spartan with you. Porking good.
Porking good, yeah. No Sugar Company makes some delicious keto snacks.
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah. I'm addicted to the Bell's Brownie Bricks.
Me too. I had one of those yesterday.
I'm sure collagen helps me heal my knee after being told I had arthritic issues early COVID days. Now I'm running huge KMS.
I don't know what KMS is.
And Spartans with no issues. That's amazing. See, I feel like they are so wishy-washy with collagen, especially depending on where collagen is coming from, which is why I say like try to get the most quality that you can and like most trusted companies, because I do think that it can be beneficial. And I think some people have had major recoveries or major things happening. Oh, kilometer here. Sorry, we're
the crazy
dumb
Americans
over here. But yeah, I think it can be really helpful. And I feel like with stories like that, it's hard to not believe it. And that's why I say, like, I think there are benefits of it. And maybe it's not its number one goal. But I think if there's something to heal, it will help to heal that, you know?
Edward, last question. I can't find a video of an Excel of your weight loss tracker. Did you make one or could you make one? Yes, I made a Google spreadsheet, which I made available to the public. If you go to ketobodybuildingbook.com, which is where I've hosted my book, you can download that Google. It's a Google spreadsheet, and then you can just make a local copy and edit it until your heart's content. So yeah, check that out for sure. ketobodybuildingbook.com.
Ketosis and sun and eyes, especially sunrise, sunset, naked eyes, no glasses or contacts. Yes.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
Circadian rhythm and light exposure is no joke. So definitely try and make full advantage of that for sure. Take full advantage of that for sure.
Do not Rigel sides. Put that back.
Rigel's going berserk. All right, did we get through all the questions on IG?
Yep, that was the last little bit.
We have pretty much reached Rigel capacity for him being patient with us while we do this live. So we're gonna go home and get him some food and all that nightly routine stuff. But we got a lot of other things in the pipeline. What do we have topic for next week?
We have 2 different things, and one of them is reverse dieting, and one is keto and breastfeeding.
All right, so that could be one of those topics will be next week. But feel free, y'all, submit any questions that y'all want to have as the starting topic for these lives, and we will. Did you like put a little question box in the last time, or how'd that work?
Yeah, I've done it several times.
All right, so just keep an eye out for the question box.
We should get in touch and have you guys come up north for a Spartan together. Have a great night, you guys. Thank you for everything you do.
I'm all for it. Let's go to Canada. Do a Spartan. All right, y'all. Much love. Take care. Ta-ta for now. We'll see you next time. Adios.
See ya.